Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Relapse Tackle. We hit another 100 subscribers, so we're going to be doing a giveaway. And I've been asked a few times and haven't gotten around to it yet, so let's do it now. How to modify the poison tail do-it mold so that it's an underspin. So we're going to go through that in this video. We're going to make some underspin jigs. I'm just going to pour up a few, and then we're going to give those away unpainted, unfinished, so you can customize them however you want. And then I'm not sure how many I'm going to throw in here yet. So let's get into it. Let's modify this and get this giveaway done. So stay tuned. So this mold I already modified a little bit here and here. So these two have been modified. We're going to use the 1 ounce. So the one that hasn't been modified at all yet, we're going to make that into the underspin. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these wire forms that I have here. So they're the 430197. These I believe I got off of Barlow's. So they're kind of a long wire form, and they're twisted at one end. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay it on the mold here. Take our hook. Got a big old nasty hook. So that's a 5/0. We'll set him in place. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually just drop it so that this is all the way down into where this other jigs pull pin would sit. Sorry, losing my words here. So I'm going to cut this using cutter, and that sucker's going to go flying. Surprised it didn't stick into my wall. So cut that off, and it's a little long, so I did that on purpose because we're going to want to bend this back towards itself so that we make a hook. If we just put this in the mold just like that, it's going to act as a pull pin. Pour the lead around it, this sucker is going to pull right out of there. So we need to bend this. But I'm going to want to make sure that this is flat here. So we're going to go, so it's flat like this. We're going to want to bend it back, straight back like this. Careful not to poke yourself at all with that sharp metal. And it might take a little while to get the shape how we want it, and might have to cut it again just to get it to set right in there. Once you figure out what you need, it makes it a lot easier to duplicate it, make more of them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut off a section here using the same cutter. I'm just going to make it a little shorter. You don't need a whole lot of bend in there inside the lead, but that'll stop it from pulling out of there. So now we have that. We can place it where we want, and then we'll put a piece of tape to hold it. And then we need to give this a couple wraps to put a little indent in there, and then you can go back and Dremel it out a little bit if you choose to. So we'll lay a little piece of Scotch tape in there with the hook in place and everything. So we want that hook to be in place, and we're not making a new impression for the hook, but we will be making an impression for that new underspin wire form. All right, so now I got it elevated because you don't want the handle sitting on the ground or anything like that, because if this handle is down and you wrap it here, you're going to break your handles off. So make sure nothing's moved, everything's where we want it, because if you smack it, it'll leave an impression in the wrong spot. It's going to leave a little dent here. It's fine though. Put a little pressure on your handles, not too much. Straight down. Give her a few wraps. Now we should have a line there and a line over there. You can do that a few more times if you want. It's not closing all the way. This is pretty close. Just make sure when you do it that nothing is moved prior to you giving her a couple wraps. I did it on the opposite side. Okay, so that's pretty good. All right, now before we go pouring these jigs up, we want to make sure that we have a few more of these wire forms made ahead of time. And you could even draw on a piece of paper so you have the length and everything that you want and the angle, how you want it, before you pour it up. Because if you pour this one in there, then you're going to go, hey, what length was that again? How did I make that? You know, so you're going to want to make a couple of them. So we'll take these and make a few of them. Do not use your gate cutter to cut this material either, because you will mess it up. You're going to want a pair of sharp, this is Channel Lock brand. You can get them at Ace, Farmer Fleet. I think Walmart even sells them now. Be careful with the wires flying around. Those wires I'll use for other things, so I'll actually pick all these up and use them again. I am actually putting little marks on my wall, so that's how fast they're flying out of there. So I should probably stop it. But I'll be the one to have to fix it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So then we'll just put a little hook on these guys. And all of them should be pretty close to the same. And they should all fit. Like I said, if you want, you know, draw them on a piece of paper or whatever you need to do to make sure that they'll fit. All right, should be good. And we're going to close this up with that in there, because that's a different one than what we started out with. And you're going to want to make sure that that mold closes tight. And it is closing tight, so we're good. If you needed to add a little bit more room, you know, take a Dremel tool and Dremel it out and add a little bit more room. So I'm going to grab the Lee pot that I modified, set it up, get my exhaust fan going, let it warm up, and then we'll pour 4 of these guys up and give them away. All right, so it's getting pretty close to being able to pour. Always use leather gloves when you're pouring. That being said, I'm not sure exactly where I set mine, so yeah, always wear them. So it's not quite hot enough yet to start flowing. Should be here pretty quick. The pot will probably drip a little bit. I haven't cleaned it in a while, so it is what it is. That's why I use this to catch the drips. so it doesn't make a huge mess. Occasionally it does splash out of that, but you know, kind of how it goes. Just lift up on the handle a little bit, and wiggle it around. Maybe a little cooler piece stuck in the bottom there. Sometimes I'll grab a hold of the stuff coming out the bottom carefully with pliers, just to get things to flow a little bit. Just kind of flowing back. But I'll run a little bit in a few times to make sure that the mold is up to temp and pouring good. This one I have not sprayed any dry graphite on this size. I need my flush cutters to grab this a little bit better than those smooth jaw needle nose pliers. Oh yeah, this one is not coming out of there too well. And I have the pot turned up quite a bit because I was trying to warm it up fast, so it'll probably drip a lot more than it normally does because it's more fluid the hotter that it is. You can overheat it. You can overheat the lead with a Lee pot and overdo it. So, alright, we'll see how she goes. We're going to put our hook in. We're going to put, what I like to do is take a piece of the UHMW pins and put an O-ring on it. And I'll place it in there and slide it down to the hook so that it is touching the hook, so I know it's in there as far as it can be, because I want that weed guard down in there as far as I can go with it. So like that, and that O-ring sits right in that little spot right where the head of the pull pin would usually sit, and it seems to just pull out of the lead much nicer than the metal pins. So I'm going to try to carefully set this up here so you guys can see what's going on with it. We'll close it up. This is not real hot yet, but we're going to see how it goes. I'll pour in the next one over real quick and then pour directly into that one. See how fast it cooled down there. It's still hot to the touch, so don't go grabbing it. It didn't fill all the way, so that's a problem. I might want to put dry graphite in it. I like to use dry graphite in like everything that I make, but the bad thing is it doesn't have anything to hold soft plastics without it pouring back there. So we'll have to melt this off of there if I'm going to use this metal again and the hook again. So we're going to have to grab some hooks out. We're using some 5/0 Mustad hooks. And we'll leave that up on top of there to warm up a little bit more. Cut another one of these guys real quick because I don't feel like melting that out of it. The thing is it's a pretty good size hook and everything, so it's going to take a little bit more to heat everything up. I'm just going to spray with dry graphite because I don't feel like fighting the mold, And it's my mold, and I'll make it ugly if I want. And I usually spray this over top of a garbage can, but the stainless steel workbench cleans up just fine. But it'll cure pretty quick because the mold is warm. And that just makes things flow better. Flows a lot nicer, makes things a lot easier. So I like making things easier. And the leaf pot is, like I said, that's still a little warmer than I usually run it. So try this again. I'm going to pour it in here just to clear that spout. Pour it in there. We'll see how it did after spraying it with a dry graphite. Seeing the dry graphite actually got flashing. So this slot might be a little bit wider than it needs to be, so we might want to open it up with the Dremel so that the mold closes all of the way, because this is actually showing me that it's not closing all the way with that flashing. But we can cut that flashing off of there, and I'd rather have a little flashing to cut off than a jig not pouring all the way. If you do want to get in the giveaway, put comment subscribe in, and you'll be entered into the giveaway. Pull this guy out of here. Comes right out of there, and you can see, if you look down in there, you can see the top of the hook. So it was touching the hook when it was poured. And everything's moving around on me. Another reason why I like using magnets on everything. Just helps hold everything in its place. Unless it's a good stainless steel, then that magnet's not going to help at all. So yeah, I see it's open just a little bit, but like I said, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have a little bit of flashing to just trim off with a razor knife. And sometimes it helps too, just having that little bit of a gap to get things to flow all the way through and get down to the bottom. So I don't mind it one bit. I'd rather have things flowing good and filling all the way. And I always throw the stuff right back in that cup. And then once I let the leaf pot cool down, that's when I'll take the stuff from that cup, put it back in there. I don't like throwing it in the hot lead because it splashes, get burns. Careful touching the handles and everything, especially if you're not wearing gloves, and it can overshoot and go onto your hand. I've had it happen. It doesn't feel good. So like I said, always wear the gloves. I'm just being dumb right now and stubborn. I'm not gonna go tracking them down. I just want to get these poured up for you guys, get the giveaway going, and I'm going to pour one more, and then I'm actually going to make one finished jig, painted and everything, because I'm a nice guy and I feel like doing it. And you know, that way if you haven't used the Stardust products, you can see how those work, and you can check the durability for yourself if you win this giveaway. Again, placing everything in there like so. Closing it up, carefully pouring it. I'll just do a little bit there. Don't have to pour a whole jig into that other one, but I'm using it just to clear the spout. I usually just do that real quick. Clear the spout and then pour the jig. Alright, so now I'm I'm going to unplug the lead pot, leave my exhaust fan running for a little bit because she's still pretty hot. I'm going to turn this guy down a little bit more, even though it's off, so the next time I start it up, it's not left up really hot. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is, we're done with this mold, but I'm going to just set it up here like we were heating it up. And this wood piece I like to set right on the handle just to put a little bit of down pressure on it to help close that up a little bit tighter. So we had that one that didn't pour very well. Now what we can do is go back and carefully cut off our sprue. And then what I do is I'll take it and scrape it. I don't like using sand or anything. And if you are going to throw stuff into a cup like I am, careful because it will drip on you and burn you. So you can scrape it with the side of your flush cutter. I don't like bending them and ripping them out of there because a lot of times you also leave a little indentation there. But any of the flashing, you can go back and just clip it off with your flush cutter. Always wash your hands. I don't like using files because files, sanding them can make particulates of lead fly around and get into your lungs and stuff. So now with that being ready there, now we can just go ahead and move on to the painting process. With Stardust is what I use. So I'm going to use a silver pearl to start as a base. I'm not going to cover the hook eye or anything like that. This is going to take up a little bit more room in the cup, so with this guy on there. So make sure you have enough room in the container you're going to be using before you heat it up and find out that you don't have enough room and needs to go into a different container. So what I do is I'll grab a hold of it with my forceps, like so. Heat it up good. Try not to heat the wire too much or the hook because you can weaken them, discolor them. But being it's a 1 ounce jig, it's going to require a little bit more heat than a smaller jig. If you put this much heat into a small jig, it's going to melt right off the hook. So just keep that in mind. We're going to dip it into the silver pearl. And see, we got a mess. We got it all over this and that. So we're going to take a second, kind of move that paint back into its place. And then it's not super hot. Careful though. We're going to take all of that paint and just get it off for this wire quick using our fingers, or you can use pliers carefully. We'll slide this back to the lead there. Pull this out of there carefully. You don't want to stab yourself pulling it out and poking your hand there. I'm going to grab a hold of this, pull that off of there. A piece of wire that I have that I cut off, and just poke this out a little bit. Clean that, clean that. Alright, so now all that stuff's cleaned off of there pretty quick. So now we're going to heat it up again, and I have some of the Stone Camel Stardust. It's black and white. Make sure you don't get it spilled into your other stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it up again. A little bit. Once again, I do have my exhaust hood going. You might be able to hear it or not. I'm not sure. But I am using my noise canceling microphone, so you might not be able to hear it that much. So now I'm going to sprinkle this on the top side. Just to give it a little, kind of like scales. All right. And be very careful. Don't want to burn yourself. I can't feel much with my fingers because I've burned them so many times and gone ice fishing so much that kind of ruined all the nerves, which is not a good thing because now you really can't tell when you burn yourself bad. So I'm going to give a little bit more heat. I'm going to grab my tweezers and get it ready for eyes. I got this cheap set of eyes off Amazon's big old pack of eyes. They work really well for this, and they take the heat. So we're going to get it hot, and then we're going to press those eyes in to the eye sockets, and then the paint itself is going to lock them in to place, and they're never going to fall out. No need for a clear over top of them or anything like that. So just push them down, press them in, and then that paint builds up around the edge a little bit as they sink in. If you want the Stardust paint, you can get that at Lure Parts Online, Lure Craft. Good stuff. So now I got the eyes in there, the underspin. Got a little black and white on the top. And then you got that underspin wire there. I'm going to shut my torch off so I don't burn myself, keep it away from the wall. Alright, you can dip it in water to chill it, or just set it off to the side for a minute. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to clean these up for the winter. Again, if you want to join the giveaway, put subscribe in the comments. If you want to put other stuff in the comments, it's fine. But subscribe, the word subscribe is what's going to enter you into the drawing to win 3 of these 1 ounce underspin. Oof, almost stabbed myself in the hand there. That's another reason for gloves. But 3 of the unfinished jigs and 1 that I've painted just now with the Stardust. And I'll put a skirt on it and everything else. The other thing is with an underspin jig like this, I don't know if I would use a fiber weed guard. So another thing with that, using that Teflon pin, is you could actually pull that out so it's just barely touching the top there, and then pour it all so that you don't have this big hole in the head, or just pour it with a hole in the head and don't put a weed guard in it if you don't want a weed guard. Kind of your choice. And as you let the lead sit a little bit, it will set up. It gets harder. So if you go cutting the sprue off right after pouring it, a lot of times it'll feel like it cuts pretty easy. Take that same lead, leave one sit for a while, and you'll see what I mean by setting up. So I always try to keep my workstation clean and clear, you know, you don't want chunks of lead and stuff around, so I'll go through and carefully clean everything, put everything away. So, and you can kind of see my fingers are getting a little dirty from the lead. So you could wear a leather glove, or a if the lead's cool, you can use rubber gloves, just so you're not handling the lead as much. So another reason having it tapered back like that is making it a little bit more weedless. And as this is pulling through the water, it's gonna tip up a little bit like this. It's not gonna sit like this. It's gonna want to fall. So that's gonna be coming out of there more straight. And if you want, you can tune them too. You can change the angle a little bit after it's poured in there. Like I said, with that hook on there, you can't pull it out of the lead. There's no way that that's going to come sliding out of the lead. I've seen people drilling holes and then adding it with a little glue and stuff. The super glue is not really going to hold very well on stainless steel in the lead. Now with the fiber weed guards, the fiber weed guard actually kind of melts a little bit with the chemical reaction with the super glue. So that's what helps heat it up and actually melts into the lead. So that's why they stay so well in the lead with the super glue. So the skirt material that I would use would be, on this one, I'm going to use the shad white clear scale. So it has, that kind of same look we were going for on the top there with that black and white. There's a little green and stuff in it. So we're going to want to make sure that the long side is the head side, the short side. This was a pre-made one. So you flip that back, kind of try to get your white fibers, your bottom ones, down towards the bottom of the jig, and these ones up towards the top of the jig. You're not going to get them all. It's really time consuming to try to get them all straightened out. For the most part, it won't matter. It's going to look good regardless. So carefully slide this in there, not poking yourself, and rotating it so that the colors are on the right side. And then you have not one spot, but you want to get it up here into the top. So make sure you got a good hold on it. You're not going to slide off and stab that sucker into your thumb, because that's not going to feel good. So jeez, it's not going. So I'll grab it here with my fingernails and work it up over. All right. And now if you think that that skirt's going to be in the way of that underspin jig, now you can, like I said, you could tune it a little bit. Take your pliers and just pull it out a little bit. So it's going to make it come down away from that skirt, a little bit. You can always bring it back up just a little bit. You don't want to bend it around too much, but you're going to get it where you want it. And then what I like to do is actually, even with these pre-made skirts, is I'll go back and do the stainless steel wire tie on them, just because it adds a lot of longevity to the jig. And for that I use the stainless steel wire. I showed it in my other videos if you want to check them out. I'm not sure exactly what the number is on it, and this spool is going to last me a long time. So I should have wrote it down before doing this video. So I'll take, you know, probably about 6 inches or so of this just for a jig, and then run it between there. You're going to want to make sure that you're not pulling the stuff that's supposed to be at the front side of that rubber band to the back side. So it's a little time consuming, but the end results, once it's all put together, I think it's well worth it. Jigs look so much nicer. It lasts so much longer. So now we got it wrapped around there once, and it's pretty snug. What I'm going to do is, because those rubber bands don't last very long anyway, is I'm going to cut it using my flush cutter. Carefully trying to miss my, can't get underneath it. I don't want to miss my wire there, and you're trying not to cut the strands of silicone that make up the skirt. So I just slid it back there. It's a little easier sometimes also to do this on a vise. So I'm around like 5 times or so. Probably get one more wrap out of it. This wire is, let's say it's 26 gauge, so it's pretty tiny. Alright, now we'll take some smooth jaw needle nose pliers again. Grab both wires, twist them. Tightening that up around that skirt, collar. So now we have our stainless steel on there. We want to cut the extra off. Leave quite a few of the wraps though, because you don't want it to unravel itself, and then you want to bend that down. And I push it, bend it down, and I push it back into itself. And I'll pull this out of here the rest of the way. Pull that right off of there. I got one strand that broke. It's not bad. And then you can go back, and if you want, trim up a few of these. You don't want short strikes, so trim it up a little bit. And then Got this willow blade spoon here, the 40-31-80. Yeah. Put my ball bearing swivel on there. So I like the ones that have the split rings on them. A friend of mine actually got me these, so I'm not even sure where the heck he got them. I'll have to ask. But there you have it. So you have a blade back there a ways. Like I said, as it's going through the water, you want that back. You know, if it's back a ways, the skirt material is not really going to get caught up in it real bad. And you still have that to add your soft plastics if you wanted to add a soft plastic trailer. And then I would use a clear for this color, clear fiber weed guard. I'm just going to make sure that it still fits in there. I did, ouch, I poked myself. I did drop some paint down inside there. So to get the paint out of there, I took one of these scribes, the 1/8 inch, put an 1/8 inch drill bit in there. Now you can take it, if you get a little paint down on the hole, you can just carefully ream it out by hand. And I'm going to glue this in anyway. So I'm going to use the super glue ultra control. Just put a tiny bit in there. Alright. There you have it. Poison tail, underspin. Enter the giveaway. Hit the subscribe button. Comment, subscribe, and good luck. Hope you enter and win. Only one person will win the giveaway, but we do a giveaway every 100 subscribers. So all 3 of those and that one, that's finished. Thanks again for watching. Tight lines.